Daddy, why are you crying?
Those 4 words, spoken in the small, innocent voice of a 5-year-old girl from the back seat of an old Ford truck, shattered something deep inside Nathan Cole's chest. He had not realized the tears had started falling until his daughter's tiny hand reached forward and touched his shoulder. Her fingers barely grazing the worn fabric of his work shirt that still smelled like motor oil and desperation. Nathan sat frozen in the community center parking lot, his calloused hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles had turned white. The engine was off, but he could not bring himself to move. In his lap sat a crumpled piece of paper, a notice he had found, taped to the door of Cole's auto repair that morning. 3 months overdue on rent. Eviction proceedings would begin in 14 days if the balance was not paid in full. 14 days. That was all the time he had left before his father's legacy. The shop his dad had built from nothing 40 years ago would be ripped away from him forever. Daddy Emma's voice pulled him back from the edge of the dark place he had been sinking into. Nathan quickly wiped his face with the back of his hand, ashamed that his little girl had witnessed his breakdown. He was supposed to be strong for her. He was supposed to be her rock, her protector, the one person in this world she could count on. And here he was, falling apart in a parking lot, while she watched from her car seat with those big blue eyes that saw far too much for a child her age. "I am okay, sweetheart." Nathan managed his voice rough with emotion he could not quite hide. "Daddy is just tired. It has been a long day." But Emma was not fooled. She never was. For a 5-year-old, she possessed an uncanny ability to sense when adults were lying, especially when that adult was her father. She had developed that skill early, probably because she had to. When you grow up with only one parent, when the other one vanishes like smoke before you are old enough to remember their face, you learn to pay attention to the parent who stayed. "You have been sad a lot." "Daddy," Emma said quietly, her small fingers still resting on his shoulder. "Ever since the mail came with the scary paper." "Is the scary paper why you are crying?" Nathan closed his eyes. Of course she had noticed. Of course she had seen him reading that eviction notice, seen the color drain from his face, seen the way his hands had trembled as he folded it and shoved it into his pocket like hiding it could make it disappear. "Sometimes grown-ups have problems they need to figure out," Nathan said, carefully, turning around in his seat to face her. "But I do not want you to worry about that. Okay? That is Daddy's job to worry about. Your job is to be a kid and play with your butterflies and dream about being a mermaid." Emma tilted her head, her blonde curls catching the fading evening light streaming through the dusty truck window. "But Daddy, you always tell me that when I have problems, I should ask for help. You said asking for help is not weak. You said it is smart." Nathan felt those words hit him like a punch to the gut. How many times had he told her that? How many times had he encouraged her to speak up when something was bothering her, to reach out to her teacher, or her grandmother, or him, when she was struggling? And yet here he was, drowning alone for 4 years, too proud, or too scared, or too stubborn to take his own advice. His eyes drifted to the window, to the bulletin board, visible through the glass doors of the Riverside Community Center. He had parked here by accident, or maybe by fate. He had just been driving aimlessly after closing the shop early, too distracted by the eviction notice to focus on work, too ashamed to go home and face another night of pretending everything was fine. And there it was, like a lifeline thrown to a man going under for the 3rd time. A simple flyer, slightly faded, pinned among announcements for yoga classes and bake sales and lost pets. Single parent support group. Wednesdays, 7:00 p.m. Room 104. You are not alone. Nathan read those last 3 words over and over. You are not alone. When was the last time he had believed that? When was the last time he had felt anything other than completely, utterly isolated in his struggle to keep his head above water? "Daddy, what does that sign say?" Emma asked, following his gaze. "It says there is a group of people here who might understand what Daddy is going through," Nathan replied slowly, the words feeling strange on his tongue. "Other moms and dads who are raising their kids by themselves like me. Can we go see them?" Nathan hesitated. Every instinct told him to drive away, to go home, to keep doing what he had been doing for 4 years, surviving alone, suffering in silence, pretending he had everything under control, when the truth was he was one missed payment away from losing everything. But Emma tugged on his hand, pulling him forward with surprising strength for such a small person. "Come on, Daddy, let us go meet your friends." "Yeah, baby," Nathan said, surprising himself with the words. "I think maybe we can. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel." To understand the depth of Nathan Cole's desperation on that Wednesday evening, you have to understand what the past 4 years had taken from him. You have to go back to the night that changed everything. The night that turned a happily married young father into a single parent, struggling to hold the broken pieces of his life together. 4 years ago, Nathan had come home from a double shift at the auto shop, exhausted, but content. Business had been slow, but they were managing. His wife, Jessica, was home with their 14-month-old daughter, and life, while not perfect, had felt stable, predictable, safe. The house was dark when he pulled into the driveway. That was the first sign something was wrong. Jessica always left the porch light on for him, no matter how late he worked. It was a small thing, a tiny gesture of care that he had taken for granted until that night, when the porch stood dark and silent. Nathan's heart had started pounding before he even opened the front door. He had called Jessica's name as he walked through the living room, his voice echoing off walls that suddenly felt cold and unfamiliar. No answer. He had checked the bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen. Nothing. No sign of his wife anywhere. And then he had heard it. Emma crying upstairs in her nursery. That particular cry that meant she had been alone for a while. The kind of desperate, exhausted sobbing that rips through a parent's chest like a jagged knife. Nathan had taken the stairs 3 at a time, bursting into the nursery to find his daughter standing in her crib, face red and wet, with tears reaching toward the door, with both arms like she had been waiting for someone to come back for hours. Maybe she had been. Nathan would never know exactly how long Jessica had been gone before he arrived, how long his baby girl had cried alone in the dark. He had scooped Emma into his arms, held her against his chest, felt her tiny body shake with sobs as she clutched at his shirt. And that is when he had seen it. The note on the dresser, written in Jessica's neat handwriting on a piece of paper torn from the grocery list pad. 3 sentences. That is all she had left them. 4 years of marriage, 14 months of motherhood, and she had reduced it all to 3 sentences. "I cannot do this anymore. Do not look for me. Tell Emma I tried." Nathan had read those words 100 times that night, 1,000 times in the weeks that followed, searching for some hidden meaning, some explanation that would make sense of the senseless. But there was nothing else. No apology, no forwarding address, no indication that she had ever loved them at all. He had called her phone over and over, listening to it ring and ring before going to voicemail. He had called her mother, her sister, her friends. No one knew where she was, or if they did, They were not telling him. It was Jessica's sister, who finally gave him something resembling an answer 3 weeks later, after Nathan had filed a missing persons report that went nowhere. She has been planning this for months, her sister had said, unable to meet his eyes. She told me she felt trapped, like motherhood was suffocating her. She said she made a mistake, and she needed to start over somewhere else. A mistake. Their daughter was a mistake to her. Their life together was something she needed to escape from. Nathan had stood in his kitchen phone pressed to his ear and felt his heart break into pieces so small he was not sure they could ever be put back together. The divorce papers arrived 2 months later, sent from an attorney in another state. Jessica wanted nothing. No custody, no visitation, no contact with the child she had carried for 9 months and abandoned after 14. She signed away her parental rights like she was returning a purchase she had changed her mind about. Nathan signed the papers with hands that shook so badly he could barely hold the pen. And just like that, he was alone. But the universe was not done testing him yet. 6 months after Jessica left, Nathan's father had a massive heart attack in the middle of his shop. He died before the ambulance arrived, collapsing among the cars he had spent 40 years repairing, surrounded by the tools he had used to build a business from nothing. Nathan inherited everything: the shop, the equipment, the modest customer base, and the debt. So much debt. His father had been struggling for years, taking out loans to keep the lights on mortgaging equipment to cover expenses during slow months. Nathan discovered the truth buried in filing cabinets and overdue notices, a mountain of financial problems his proud father had hidden from everyone. In the span of 6 months, Nathan had lost his wife and his father, inherited a failing business and a mountain of debt, and become the sole parent to a little girl who spent weeks reaching toward the door every time it opened, waiting for a mother who was never coming back. The first year was a blur of survival. Nathan worked 16-hour days, dropped Emma at daycare before dawn, and picked her up after dark. He learned to change diapers and make bottles and rock a crying toddler at 3 in the morning when the nightmares came. He learned to cook simple meals and do laundry and clean the apartment they had moved into after he could not afford the house anymore. He learned to cry in the shower, where Emma could not hear him, to scream into his pillow at night when the loneliness became too much to bear, to paste on a smile every morning and pretend he was not falling apart inside. Some nights after Emma was asleep, Nathan would sit in the dark living room and wonder what he had done wrong. Had he worked too much, loved too little, been too focused on building a future that his wife did not want? The questions circled endlessly, vultures picking at the carcass of his self-worth. Emma's first word had been gone. Not mama, not dada. Gone. She had said it one afternoon when they were at the grocery store, and a woman with dark hair walked past them, and Emma had pointed and said, gone, with such matter-of-fact sadness that Nathan had to leave his cart in the aisle and carry her out to the truck, where they both cried together. That word haunted him for months. It still did. 4 years later, Nathan was still running on fumes. The shop was failing despite his best efforts, squeezed between rising costs and decreasing customers who preferred the flashy chain repair places across town. He had sold everything of value he owned, moved into a smaller apartment, cut every expense he could think of. But it was not enough. It was never enough. And now, sitting in that parking lot, with an eviction notice in his lap and his daughter's small hand on his shoulder, Nathan Cole had finally reached the end of his rope. He had nothing left. No savings, no safety net, no one to call. His mother helped when she could, watching Emma on weekends, but she was living on a fixed income and could not afford to bail him out. His few friends had drifted away over the years, casualties of his all-consuming focus on survival. For the first time in 4 years, Nathan was forced to confront a terrifying truth. He could not do this alone anymore. He needed help. And maybe, just maybe, the answer was waiting inside that community center, in a room full of strangers who understood what it meant to fight every single day for a child who was counting on you to be enough. The Riverside Community Center smelled like industrial cleaner and stale coffee, which Nathan found oddly comforting. It was a real place, a modest place, with fluorescent lights that hummed and linoleum floors that squeaked under his work boots. Not fancy, not pretentious. Just a building where ordinary people gathered to try to make their lives a little less hard. Emma held his hand tightly as they walked down the hallway. Her other arm wrapped around her favorite stuffed butterfly, a purple one she had named Violet, that she took everywhere. Her eyes darted between the motivational posters on the walls, posters with slogans like, "You are stronger than you think," and "One day at a time and progress, not perfection." "Daddy, why do people need to be told they are strong?" Emma asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "Do they not already know?" Nathan looked down at his daughter, at this tiny philosopher in butterfly-covered sneakers, and felt his heart swell with a love so fierce it almost hurt. "Sometimes people forget, sweetheart. Sometimes life gets so hard that people need to be reminded that they can handle it. Did you forget, Daddy?" The question was so simple, so direct, so perfectly aimed at the center of everything he had been struggling with. Nathan crouched down to Emma's level right there in the hallway and looked into her eyes. "Yeah, baby, I think maybe I did, but I am trying to remember now. That is why we are here." Emma nodded seriously, then handed him Violet. "You can borrow her. She helps me feel brave when I am scared." Nathan took the stuffed butterfly, running his calloused thumb over its soft purple wings, and felt tears prick at his eyes again. This child, this amazing, perceptive, generous child was trying to take care of him. After everything she had been through, everything she had lost, she was still thinking about how to make her father feel better. He did not deserve her. He really did not. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said, his voice thick. "I will keep her safe." Room 104 was at the end of the hall, its door propped open with a rubber doorstop. Nathan could hear voices inside the low murmur of conversation, and his feet slowed involuntarily as they approached. This was it, the moment of truth. He could still turn around, still go back to the truck, still pretend this had never happened. But Emma tugged on his hand, pulling him forward with surprising strength for such a small person. "Come on, Daddy. Let us go meet your friends." They stepped through the door together. The room was set up simply with folding chairs, arranged in a loose circle, and a table against one wall, holding a coffee maker's cups and what looked like homemade cookies. About 12 people were already there, a mix of men and women of various ages, most looking as tired and worn as Nathan felt. Some chatted quietly with each other, others sat alone, staring at their phones or their feet, or the middle distance. Nathan found 2 empty chairs near the back and guided Emma toward them, hoping to remain as invisible as possible for his first meeting. He had just gotten her settled with a coloring book and crayons from his backpack when the door opened again. And everything changed. She walked in like a burst of color in a gray world, and Nathan felt something shift in his chest that he had not felt in so long he had forgotten it existed. She was blonde, her hair cascading in soft waves past her shoulders, catching the harsh fluorescent light, and somehow making it look golden instead of cold. She wore a red dress that fit her perfectly, not flashy but elegant, like she had come from somewhere important, but did not want to make a big deal about it. Her smile was warm, genuine, reaching all the way to her green eyes as she surveyed the room. In one hand, she balanced a tray of homemade cookies, that smelled like heaven. In the other, she carried a folder that looked professional, but not intimidating. She moved with the easy grace of someone comfortable in her own skin, but Nathan noticed the way she fidgeted with the hem of her dress when she thought no one was looking, the slight nervous energy that said maybe she was not as confident as she appeared. "Sorry, I am a bit late," she said, her voice carrying across the room with a warmth that made people look up and pay attention. Traffic was a nightmare, and I had to stop to pick up more cookies because someone ate half of them before I left the house. Several people laughed, the sound natural and relaxed, and Nathan realized they knew her. This was not her first time here. The woman set the cookies on the table and turned to face the group, her eyes scanning the circle until they landed on Nathan. She held his gaze for just a moment, and something flickered there. Recognition, maybe, though they had never met. Or perhaps just an acknowledgement of a fellow survivor, another weary soldier in the battlefield of single parenthood. "For those who are new, tonight I am Victoria Hayes," she said, her smile widening as she looked directly at Nathan. "I coordinate this little group. I am also a single mom to an 8-year-old tornado named Oliver, and I work in tech. Boring stuff, mostly spreadsheets and meetings. Nothing exciting." She said it dismissively, like her job was an afterthought, something that paid the bills, but did not define her. Nathan noticed she drove a modest Honda Civic, which he had seen pulling into the parking lot as he was getting Emma out of his truck. She seemed normal, relatable. Just another struggling parent trying to make it through. "And who do we have here?" Victoria asked, making her way toward Nathan and Emma. She crouched down, putting herself at Emma's eye level in a way that told Nathan she was used to talking to kids. "I love your butterfly." "What is her name?" Emma, who was usually shy around strangers, looked up with wide eyes and said, "This is Violet. She is helping my daddy be brave tonight." Victoria's expression softened, something vulnerable passing across her face before she composed herself. "That is very kind of you to share her. Your daddy is lucky to have such a caring helper." She looked up at Nathan then, and he saw it. The understanding. The recognition of someone who knew exactly how hard it was to be everything for a child while barely keeping yourself together. "I am Nathan," he managed. "Nathan Cole. This is Emma. She is 5, and she is convinced she is secretly a mermaid." "A mermaid?" Victoria's eyebrows rose with genuine interest. "That is wonderful. My son Oliver went through a phase where he insisted on wearing a superhero cape everywhere. School, grocery store, doctor's office. Everywhere. I have pictures that will embarrass him at his wedding someday." Emma giggled, and Nathan felt some of the tension drain from his shoulders. Victoria had a gift for putting people at ease, for making even the most awkward situations feel comfortable. The meeting began, and Nathan found himself drawn into the circle of shared experiences. Parents took turns sharing their struggles, their small victories, their fears. A mother talked about missing her son's school play because she could not get off work. A father described the guilt he felt for serving cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row when he was too exhausted to cook. Another woman cried as she admitted she sometimes locked herself in the bathroom just to have 5 minutes alone, and everyone nodded because they understood. They all understood. When it was Nathan's turn, he hesitated. His throat felt tight. The words stuck somewhere between his heart and his mouth. But then, Victoria caught his eye from across the circle and nodded encouragingly, her expression saying, "It is okay, we are here. You are safe." "I am Nathan," he said again, his voice rough. "I have been raising Emma alone for 4 years. Her mother left when she was 14 months old, just packed up and left without any warning. And my dad died 6 months later left me his auto repair shop, along with a mountain of debt I am still trying to dig out from under. He took a shaky breath, surprised by how much he was saying, how easily the words were pouring out after years of keeping them locked inside. Most days I feel like I am failing. I work 60-hour weeks and still cannot seem to get ahead. Emma has nightmares, sometimes asks about her mother, and I never know what to say. I do not know how to explain to a 5-year-old that her mom chose to leave, that she just walked away like we were nothing. His voice cracked, and he had to stop. He looked down at his hands, at the grease permanently embedded in the creases of his palms, at the calluses built up from years of hard work that never seemed to be enough. I came here tonight because I ran out of other options, Nathan admitted. I have been trying to do this alone for so long, and I am drowning. I think I have been drowning for years, and I am finally tired enough to admit it. The silence that followed was filled with understanding, not judgment. Then, from across the circle, Victoria spoke. That is the bravest thing anyone has said in this room in a long time, Nathan. And I want you to know that what you are feeling, that drowning sensation, every person in this circle has felt it too. You are not alone anymore. That is why we are here. The meeting continued for another hour, but Nathan barely registered the rest of it. He was too busy processing the unfamiliar sensation of being heard, of having his pain acknowledged, without being dismissed or minimized or compared to someone else's. These strangers, these fellow warriors in the trenches of single parenthood, they got it. They really got it. As the meeting wound down, Nathan helped stack chairs, while Victoria gathered her materials. The other parents filtered out gradually, several stopping to welcome him and encourage him to come back next week. Emma had made friends with a little boy, whose mother had been talking about her custody battle, and the two kids were showing each other their toys in the corner. "So what did you think?" Victoria asked, tucking a strand of golden hair behind her ear as she approached him. "Honestly, I wish I had come months ago. Years ago. It is nice not feeling like I am the only one drowning." Victoria smiled, and Nathan felt that shift in his chest again. That is exactly why I started the group. Parenting is hard enough with two people. Doing it solo? She shrugged eloquently. "You know, yeah." Nathan nodded. "I know." "Listen," Victoria said. And was it his imagination, or did she seem slightly nervous? "Oliver has a playdate this weekend at Westside Park. Saturday around noon. If Emma likes the outdoors, you both should come. Oliver would love to meet her, and honestly, it would be nice to have another adult to talk to while the kids run around." The invitation caught Nathan off guard. He had come here expecting to sit in a circle and share his feelings, not to make actual connections with actual people. Emma would love that, he heard himself saying. She has been asking for more friends ever since we moved to this neighborhood last year. Perfect. Victoria pulled out her phone, a simple model, that surprised him, given how put together she looked. "Let me get your number just in case plans change." They exchanged contacts, and Nathan noticed her hands were shaking slightly as she typed his name into her phone. So, she was nervous. That made him feel a little better about his own racing heart. "I will text you the details," Victoria said, slipping her phone back into her purse. "And Nathan, I'm really glad you came tonight. It takes a lot of courage to walk through that door the first time." Thanks to Emma, Nathan admitted, looking over at his daughter, who was now showing the little boy how to make butterfly wings with her arms. "She reminded me that asking for help is not weak. It is smart. She sounds like a wise kid. Wiser than me, that is for sure." Victoria laughed, and Nathan thought it might be the most beautiful sound he had heard in 4 years. It was genuine, unguarded. The kind of laugh that said she was not trying to impress anyone or hold anything back. "I will see you Saturday. Nathan Cole," she said. And there was something in her voice, something he could not quite identify, that made him think maybe his life was about to change in ways he could not yet imagine. As Nathan walked back to his truck, with Emma's hand in his, and Violet the butterfly tucked under his arm, he felt something he had not felt in so long. He had almost forgotten what it was. Hope. He still had an eviction notice in his pocket. He still had no idea how he was going to pay his rent, or save his shop, or build any kind of future for himself and his daughter. But for the first time in 4 years, he did not feel completely alone. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to keep going. Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect autumn weather that made even the most exhausted parent want to spend time outside. The sky was a brilliant blue, the air crisp but not cold, and golden leaves drifted lazily from the trees lining Westside Park like nature's confetti. Nathan had changed his shirt 3 times before finally settling on a clean flannel over a plain white t-shirt, which was ridiculous because this was not a date. It was a play date. For the kids. The fact that his heart was beating faster than normal, and he had actually trimmed his beard for the first time in weeks, had nothing to do with seeing Victoria again. Nothing at all. "Daddy, you smell nice," Emma observed from her car seat as they pulled into the parking lot. "Did you take a bath?" "I shower every day, Em. Not with the special soap. The one that smells like the trees. You only use that for special days." Nathan caught his daughter's knowing gaze in the rearview mirror and felt his cheeks flush. She was 5. She was not supposed to notice these things. She was not supposed to see right through him with those sharp blue eyes that missed absolutely nothing. Just wanted to make a good impression. He mumbled, unbuckling his seatbelt. "Now come on, let us go find your new friends." He spotted Victoria immediately, which was not surprising, given that she seemed to draw his attention like a magnet. She was sitting on a picnic blanket, spread beneath a large oak tree, wearing jeans and a simple white blouse. Today, her blonde hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. Without the red dress, without the put-together appearance of the support group, she looked younger, more relaxed, more real. Beside her sat a boy with auburn hair, maybe 7 or 8 years old, intensely focused on building some kind of elaborate structure with sticks and leaves. He had his mother's determined expression, that look of complete concentration that said the rest of the world had ceased to exist while he worked on his project. Victoria looked up as they approached, and her face broke into a smile that made Nathan's chest feel too small for his heart. "You made it," she said, genuinely pleased. "I was starting to think maybe I had scared you off. Takes more than a picnic to scare me," Nathan replied, settling onto the blanket beside her while trying to look casual about the whole thing. "Emma has been counting down the hours since Wednesday. So has Oliver." Victoria gestured toward her son. "Oliver, this is Emma and her dad, Nathan. The ones I told you about." Oliver looked up from his construction project, assessed Nathan with a quick, serious glance, then turned his attention to Emma. "Do you want to help me build a fort?" he asked without preamble. "I am making it for bugs to live in, but it needs more rooms." Emma looked at Nathan, who nodded encouragingly. She took a tentative step toward Oliver, clutching Violet to her chest. "I like butterflies," she announced, as if this were the most important information anyone needed to know about her. "Cool," Oliver said, already returning to his work. "We can make a special butterfly room, with flowers." And just like that, the 2 children were absorbed in their own world, gathering twigs and leaves, while discussing the architectural requirements of insect housing, with the kind of seriousness that only children can muster. Within 5 minutes, they were laughing together, their initial shyness completely forgotten. "Well, that was easy," Nathan remarked, watching his daughter demonstrate her butterfly arm-flapping technique for an appreciative Oliver. "Kids are amazing that way." Victoria agreed. No walls, no baggage, no overthinking. They just connect. Adults could learn a lot from them about making friends. They fell into easy conversation, the kind that flows naturally when two people share a fundamental understanding of each other's lives. Nathan learned that Victoria had been raising Oliver alone for 3 years, ever since her divorce. Her ex-husband had taken a job in Singapore and gradually lost interest in being part of his son's life. The phone calls becoming less frequent, the promised visits never materializing. The hardest part is not doing everything myself, Victoria admitted. Pulling at a blade of grass. The hardest part is watching Oliver wait by the window for a father who never comes. Explaining why Daddy missed another birthday, another Christmas, another soccer game. Nathan nodded, his chest tight with recognition. Emma still asks about her mother sometimes, usually late at night when she is half asleep and her defenses are down. She will ask why Mommy left, or if Mommy is ever coming back, or if she did something to make Mommy go away. He swallowed hard. That last one kills me every time. She was 14 months old. She did not do anything. But how do you explain adult selfishness to a child who thinks the whole world revolves around her? You cannot, Victoria said softly. You just hold them and love them and hope it is enough to fill the hole that was left behind. Their eyes met, and Nathan saw his own pain reflected back at him. Here was someone who truly understood, who was not just offering empty platitudes or uncomfortable sympathy. Victoria knew the particular agony of single parenthood, the constant balancing act, the guilt that never quite went away, the loneliness that crept in during quiet moments when the kids were asleep and the house felt too big and too empty. So what do you do? Nathan asked, steering the conversation toward lighter territory. You mentioned tech at the meeting. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. I run a small company. Software stuff. It is mostly boring meetings and spreadsheets, honestly. Nothing exciting. She turned the question back on him. What about you? You said you own an auto repair shop. Inherited it from my dad, Nathan explained. Cole's Auto Repair. He started it 40 years ago with nothing but a toolbox and a dream, built it into something real. When he died, I could not let it go. It is all I have left of him. You know, his tools, his customers, the smell of motor oil and tire rubber. Sometimes I swear I can still feel him there, looking over my shoulder while I work. That is beautiful, Victoria said, and she sounded like she meant it. Having a legacy like that to hold on to. It is also drowning me. Nathan admitted, the words coming out before he could stop them. He had not meant to bring up his financial problems, had not wanted to dump his burden on this woman he barely knew. But something about Victoria made him feel safe, made him want to be honest in a way he had not been with anyone in years. Business has been slow, he continued. People prefer the chain shops, now the ones with the fancy waiting rooms, and the free coffee and the coupons in the mail. I cannot compete with that. I am one guy with a toolbox and a reputation for honest work, and apparently that is not enough anymore. Victoria's expression had changed, becoming more focused, more intense. How bad is it? Nathan hesitated, then decided to hell with it. She had asked, and she seemed to genuinely want to know. Bad. I got an eviction notice this week, 3 months behind on rent. They are giving me 2 weeks to come up with the money, or they are shutting me down. Nathan, I am so sorry. It is not your problem, he said quickly, embarrassed by his own vulnerability. I should not have dumped that on you. We are supposed to be having a nice afternoon, and here I am being a complete downer. Stop, Victoria said firmly, reaching out to touch his arm. The contact sent a jolt through him, unexpected and electric. This group exists because we all need someone to talk to, someone who understands. You are not being a downer. You are being real. And that is exactly what we all need more of. She held his gaze for a long moment, and Nathan saw something in her eyes that he could not quite identify. Concern. Yes, but also something else. Something that looked almost like guilt, or maybe recognition, like she was carrying her own secret burden that she was not quite ready to share. Before he could pursue that thought, a commotion from the children demanded their attention. Oliver and Emma came running over, faces flushed with excitement, hands covered in dirt and leaves. "We finished the bug fort," Oliver announced proudly. Emma made a special room just for butterflies. It has windows so they can see the sky. "Butterflies like windows," Emma added seriously. "They need to see where they are going when they fly away." Nathan felt his heart squeeze at his daughter's words, at the unconscious reference to her own mother's departure. But before he could dwell on it, Victoria was on her feet, exclaiming over the children's creation, with the kind of genuine enthusiasm that said she was not just humoring them. "This is incredible," she said, crouching down to examine the intricate stick structure. "I love how you used the leaves for the roof. Very environmentally conscious." The afternoon stretched on golden and warm, filled with laughter and easy conversation, and the simple joy of watching children play. They shared the sandwiches Victoria had brought along with juice boxes and cookies that made Emma declare she wanted to come to the park every single day forever. At one point, Oliver and Emma begged to continue playing, neither wanting the day to end. Victoria suggested they get ice cream, and when Nathan reached for his wallet, she tried to wave him off. "My treat," she said. "Really, it is nothing." Next time, Nathan countered firmly, pulling out enough cash to cover everyone. "I can handle ice cream." Something flickered across Victoria's face, something that looked like respect, or maybe relief. She nodded and let him pay, and Nathan felt a small victory in maintaining his dignity, in being able to provide something however small, instead of accepting charity. As they walked to the ice cream truck, Emma's sticky hand in his, and the autumn sun warm on his face, Nathan caught Victoria watching him, with an expression he could not quite read. When their eyes met, she quickly looked away, but not before he caught the hint of a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Thank you for today," Nathan said as they prepared to leave an hour later, both children protesting loudly about the unfairness of having to go home. Emma has not laughed like this in a long time. She needed this. So did Oliver. Victoria replied, "And if I am being honest, so did I." She paused, seeming to debate something internally. "Nathan, I know this might sound forward, but would you want to do this again? Maybe dinner sometime? There is a kid-friendly pizza place over on 3rd Street that Oliver loves." Nathan's heart did something complicated in his chest. "Yeah," he said, trying not to sound too eager. "Yeah, I would like that." Emma would too. It is a date then. Victoria's cheeks flushed slightly at her own words. "I mean, not a date. A family thing. A kid thing. You know what I mean." Nathan laughed, the first real laugh he had experienced in longer than he could remember. "I know what you mean. And yes, it is definitely a date. A kid date. A family kid date." He winced. "I'm going to stop talking now." Victoria's laugh joined his, and the sound of it, bright and genuine and unguarded, stayed with Nathan long after they had loaded the kids into their respective vehicles and driven their separate ways. As he navigated his old truck through the evening traffic, Emma already half asleep in the back seat, with Violet clutched to her chest, Nathan allowed himself to feel something he had forbidden himself from feeling for 4 years. He was attracted to Victoria Hayes. More than attracted. He was drawn to her in a way that felt both terrifying and exhilarating, like standing at the edge of a cliff and wanting to jump. But he barely knew her, he reminded himself. They had only met twice. She was probably just being friendly, just being kind to a fellow single parent who clearly needed all the kindness he could get. Besides, what did he have to offer someone like her? He was broke, on the verge of losing his business, struggling to provide even the basics for his daughter. Victoria might drive a modest car and dress casually and talk about her job. Like it was nothing special, but she had her life together in a way Nathan could only dream of. She deserved better than him. Anyone deserved better than him. But even as he told himself all the reasons this could never work, Nathan could not stop the smile that spread across his face every time he thought about Victoria's laugh, or the way she had touched his arm, or the look in her eyes when she had said, "It is a date then." Maybe he was getting ahead of himself. Maybe this was just friendship, just two lonely parents finding solidarity in their shared struggle. But maybe, just maybe, it was something more. Over the next few weeks, Nathan and Victoria fell into a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing. Wednesday evenings at the support group weekend playdates at the park, or the pizza place, or the children's museum downtown. Stolen conversations over coffee while the kids played text messages late at night, when neither could sleep, phone calls that started about logistics and ended up lasting for hours. Nathan found himself thinking about Victoria constantly, a fact that simultaneously thrilled and terrified him. He would catch himself smiling at his phone during work, checking for her messages during slow moments at the shop, counting down the days until he would see her again. Emma noticed the change in him before anyone else. "Daddy, you are happy now," she observed one morning over breakfast. "Your smile is different. It is real instead of pretend." Nathan paused his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Had his smiles been that obviously fake before? Had his 5-year-old daughter been able to see through his carefully constructed facade? "This entire time, I guess I am happy," he admitted, setting down his cup. "I made a friend, a really good friend. Is Miss Victoria your friend?" "She is." Emma considered this seriously, chewing her toast with thoughtful deliberation. "Good. I like Miss Victoria. And I like Oliver. He is nice, even though he is a boy." She made a face that suggested boys were generally not to be trusted. "He said he wants to be a scientist when he grows up and find all the bugs in the whole world. That is a good goal. I told him I want to be a mermaid, and he did not even laugh. He said maybe mermaids are real, and scientists just have not found them yet." Emma beamed at this memory. "He is smart." Nathan felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the coffee. His daughter had found a friend, a real friend, who took her seriously and supported her dreams no matter how fantastical. In the grand scheme of things, that mattered more than all his financial troubles combined. His mother noticed the change too, though she expressed it with considerably more directness. "You have met someone," she said during her weekly visit, watching him with the sharp eyes that had seen through every childhood lie he had ever attempted. "Do not bother denying it. You are practically glowing." "It is not like that," Nathan protested, even as his face heated. "She is just a friend. Another parent from the support group." "A female parent, yes. A single female parent, Mom. An attractive single female parent, based on the way you are blushing like a teenager." Nathan groaned, running a hand through his hair. "Fine. Yes. She is attractive. She is also kind and funny, and amazing with kids and way out of my league." "Happy now?" His mother's expression softened. "I am happy that you are opening yourself up again. After what Jessica did to you, I worried you would never let anyone in." "But Nathan, be careful. You have been hurt before. Do not rush into anything." "I am not rushing," Nathan assured her. "I honestly do not even know if she sees me that way. We are just friends." But even as he said it, he knew it was not entirely true. There was something between them. Some current of electricity that sparked every time their eyes met. Every time their hands accidentally brushed. Every time one of them said something that made the other laugh. Friends did not make his heart race the way Victoria did. Friends did not occupy his thoughts during every quiet moment, filling the spaces in his mind that used to be occupied by worry and fear. Meanwhile, Victoria was fighting her own internal battle. She arrived home from the park one Saturday afternoon, still smiling from the way Nathan had made her laugh, still feeling the warmth of his hand when he had helped her up from the blanket. Her mansion loomed before her, a massive testament to her success that felt more like a prison than a home. Victoria had changed clothes before meeting Nathan, swapping her designer dress for simple jeans and a blouse, her luxury sedan, for the Honda Civic she kept specifically for occasions when she did not want to draw attention. It was a routine she had developed over years of having her wealth complicate every relationship she tried to form. Men either wanted her money pursuing her with calculated charm that evaporated the moment they realized she was not going to bankroll their dreams, or they felt emasculated by her success, becoming distant and resentful when they discovered she earned more in a month than they did in a year. Either way, the result was the same. Loneliness wrapped in silk sheets in a house too big for two people. Nathan was different. He had no idea who she really was. No idea about the company she had built from nothing. The millions in her bank account. The property portfolio that included this ridiculous mansion and several other homes across the country. To him, she was just Victoria, a fellow single parent struggling to balance work and family, someone who understood the particular exhaustion of raising a child alone. And that was intoxicating. For the first time in years, someone was getting to know the real her. Not the CEO, not the millionaire, not the prize to be won or the threat to be neutralized. Just Victoria. The woman who burned dinner half the time, who let Oliver stay up too late watching movies, who cried during commercials about reunited families, who was terrified she was screwing up this whole parenting thing, despite all the resources at her disposal. Nathan saw that Victoria, and he seemed to like her anyway. But she was lying to him. Maybe not actively, but definitely by omission. Every time she deflected questions about her work, every time she downplayed her job as boring office stuff, every time she drove her modest Honda instead of her Mercedes, she was creating a false impression. She was going to have to tell him the truth eventually. She knew that. The longer she waited, the worse it would be, the more betrayed he would feel when he discovered she had been hiding such a significant part of her life. But every time she tried to find the words, fear stopped her cold. What if telling him changed everything? What if he looked at her differently, the way everyone else did? What if he decided she was not the person he thought she was, and walked away? She could not lose him. She realized that now with a clarity that both thrilled and terrified her. Over these past few weeks, Nathan Cole had become essential to her happiness, in a way no one had been since before her divorce. Mom Oliver appeared in the doorway of her home office, where she had been staring at spreadsheets without seeing them for the past hour. Can Nathan be my new dad? Victoria's heart stopped. What Nathan? Emma's dad. He is really nice. He helped me build a kite last week, remember? And he knows all about cars and bugs, and he does not talk to me like I am stupid. Oliver's expression was serious earnest. I know my real dad is in Singapore, but he never calls anymore. And Nathan is here. So can he be my new dad? Victoria felt tears prick at her eyes. Her son, her precious boy, who put on such a brave face about his father's absence, was asking for something she wanted desperately to give him. A family, a complete family with 2 parents who loved him. "It does not quite work that way, sweetheart," she said carefully, pulling Oliver onto her lap. "Nathan and I are friends. Getting a new dad is a very big decision that would take a long time to figure out. But you like him, right? I can tell. You smile different when you are around him." Out of the mouths of babes, Victoria thought, remembering Nathan's story about Emma making a similar observation. Their children were paying attention, noticing things, hoping for things that the adults were too scared to articulate. "I do like him," Victoria admitted. "Very much. But Oliver, there is something I need to tell you, and I need you to keep it a secret for now." "Okay," Oliver nodded solemnly, his expression saying he understood the gravity of secret-keeping. "Nathan does not know about our money. He does not know about this house, or Mommy's company, or any of that. He thinks we are just like him, and I have not corrected that impression because I like that he sees me for me, not for what I have." "Is that lying?" Oliver asked, his forehead creasing. Victoria's chest tightened. "It is not telling the whole truth, which is kind of like lying. And I am going to have to tell him eventually. But I am scared, baby. I am scared that when he finds out, he will not like me anymore." Oliver considered this with the seriousness of a child who had already experienced too much adult complexity. "Emma says Nathan is the best dad in the world, and best dads do not stop liking people just because they have a big house. That would be silly." Victoria laughed despite herself, hugging her son tight. "You are right. That would be silly. Maybe I need to trust that Nathan is as good as Emma says he is." "He is," Oliver said confidently. "I can tell. He is a good one, like in the movies." Victoria kissed the top of her son's head, breathing in the familiar smell of his shampoo and the faint trace of dirt from his afternoon adventures. "I hope you are right, baby. I really hope you are right." What Nathan did not know was that the woman he was falling for was hiding a secret that would challenge everything he believed about himself. "Stay with us." The sky opened up on Saturday morning, rain pounding against Nathan's apartment windows with a ferocity that killed any hope of their planned park outing. Emma pressed her face against the glass, watching the water stream down in rivers, her disappointment palpable. "Can we still see Oliver?" she asked, her voice small. "I promised I would bring him my butterfly book." Nathan was about to explain that rain usually meant staying inside when his phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Rain ruins everything. Oliver has been moping all morning. Any chance you two want to come over instead?" "He is dying to show Emma his Lego collection." Nathan stared at the message, his thumbs hovering over the keyboard. Going to her house. That felt different somehow, more intimate than meeting at a neutral location. But Emma was already tugging on his sleeve, having read the message over his shoulder with the shameless nosiness of a 5-year-old. "Please, Daddy. Please, 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 okay?" Nathan typed back. "Send me the address." The response came immediately, along with an address that made Nathan's stomach drop. He knew that neighborhood. Everyone in town knew that neighborhood. Oakwood Heights was where the rich people lived, the ones with Mercedes in their driveways and pools in their backyards, and more money than Nathan would see in 10 lifetimes. There had to be a mistake. Victoria drove a Honda Civic. She wore jeans and simple blouses. She talked about her job like it was nothing special. There was no way she lived in Oakwood Heights. But when he plugged the address into his GPS, the route was unmistakable. Past downtown, past the comfortable middle-class neighborhoods, through a security checkpoint, and into a world of mansions and manicured lawns, and enough wealth to make Nathan's truck feel like a toy among giants. Maybe she is house-sitting, Nathan muttered to himself as he buckled Emma into her car seat. Or visiting a friend. Or the GPS is wrong. But the Jeeps was not wrong. The drive through Oakwood Heights was surreal, like passing through the screen of a television, showing a program about how the other half lived. The houses were not just big. They were enormous, sprawling estates, with circular driveways and fountains, and lawns so green they looked artificial. Cars Nathan had only seen in magazines sat in driveways like ordinary vehicles, their price tags probably exceeding his annual income several times over. "Daddy, are these castles?" Emma asked, her face pressed against the window in wonder. "Do princesses live here?" Nathan could not answer. His throat had closed up, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles ached. Every insecurity he had ever had came flooding back with a vengeance. The unpaid bills piling up on his kitchen counter, the eviction notice he still had not figured out how to address, the second-hand clothes Emma wore because he could not afford new ones, the birthday party last year that he had had to cancel because the venue deposit would have meant not making rent. He did not belong here. He had never belonged anywhere near here. The GPS announced his arrival at a house that made Nathan's breath catch. It was not the biggest mansion on the street, but it was still massive. A beautiful colonial-style home with more windows than he could count, surrounded by gardens that probably required a full-time staff to maintain. The driveway curved in a gentle arc toward a 3-car garage, and even through the rain, Nathan could see the quality of everything. The perfect paint, the elegant landscaping, the subtle details that screamed money. In a way that was almost offensive. He sat in his truck with the engine running, rain drumming on the roof, his hand hovering over the gear shift. He could still leave. He could text Victoria some excuse, claim Emma was not feeling well, avoid this conversation entirely. But then the front door opened, and Victoria appeared. She was barefoot. Despite the cold, wearing jeans and a casual sweater, her hair messy like she had been playing with Oliver. She waved at him through the rain, her smile wide and genuine, and behind her, Oliver came running, already shouting Emma's name. Emma was unbuckling herself before Nathan could stop her. "There is Oliver!" she squealed, throwing open the door and jumping out into the rain, running toward the house with her butterfly book clutched to her chest. Nathan watched his daughter disappear into the mansion, then looked down at his hands. They were shaking. He could do this. Whatever this was, whatever it meant, he could face it. He had survived worse. He had survived his wife leaving his father dying 4 years of struggling alone. He could survive discovering that the woman he was falling for was apparently wealthy beyond his comprehension. Taking a deep breath, Nathan turned off the engine and stepped out into the rain. The inside of Victoria's house was even more overwhelming than the outside. Nathan stood in the foyer, rain dripping from his hair, onto a marble floor that probably cost more than his truck trying to process the sheer scope of what he was seeing. The ceiling soared above him, adorned with elegant chandeliers that caught the gray light filtering through massive windows. Artwork lined the walls, not the generic prints from home stores that decorated his apartment, but real paintings. Originals, the kind that museums displayed behind velvet ropes. A sweeping staircase curved upward to a second floor that seemed to stretch on forever. "I know," Victoria said, appearing at his side with a towel. "It is a lot. I do not actually like it, honestly. It is too big for just us, too empty. Oliver and I basically live in about 4 rooms, and ignore the rest." Nathan took the towel mechanically, dried his face, tried to form words. "Victoria, what is this?" She flinched at his tone, and he immediately felt guilty. She had not done anything wrong. She had just invited him to her house, It was not her fault that her house happened to be a mansion worth more than he would earn in his entire lifetime. "Can we go somewhere more comfortable to talk?" she asked quietly. "The kids are already upstairs with the Legos. We have time." She led him through a series of rooms, each more impressive than the last, until they reached what she called the family room, a relatively modest space with comfortable couches, a fireplace, and enough books on the shelves to stock a small library. This room looked lived and cozy despite its size, with Oliver's toys scattered across the floor and Victoria's laptop open on a side table. Nathan sank onto a couch, his mind still reeling. Victoria sat across from him, her expression cautious, like she was bracing for impact. "Why did you not tell me?" The words came out harsher than he intended, raw, with a hurt he had not expected to feel. "All this time, I have been talking about my money problems, my struggling business, barely making ends meet, and you have been sitting there with all of this." "Nathan, I can explain." "Explain what?" "That you let me believe you were just like me, that you pretended to be some normal, struggling single mom, when you were actually, what, a millionaire, a billionaire." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, and Nathan felt his anger waver. He did not want to make her cry. He did not want to hurt her. But he also felt deceived, manipulated, like the foundation of their entire relationship had been built on lies. "I did not pretend to be anything," Victoria said, her voice shaking. "Everything I told you was true. I am a single mom. I do struggle, just not financially. And yes, I have money. A lot of money. I built a tech company from nothing right after college, and it took off in ways I never expected. I am a millionaire, several times over." "There. Now you know. Now I know." Nathan laughed bitterly. After weeks of thinking, I had finally met someone who understood what my life was like. Someone in the same boat. Same struggles. Same fears. "I do understand," Victoria insisted. "Money does not fix loneliness, Nathan. It does not fix being abandoned. My ex-husband married me for my money. Did you know that? He admitted it on the day he left. Said he never actually loved me, just loved what my company could provide. He told me I was too boring to love without my bank account." The raw pain in her voice cut through Nathan's anger, forcing him to really look at her. She was not defensive anymore. She was broken, exposed, sharing wounds that ran as deep as his own. "He fought me for custody of Oliver," Victoria continued. "Not because he wanted our son. He had barely shown interest in Oliver for years. But because he knew threatening to take Oliver would force me to settle. He wanted money, and he used my child as leverage to get it." Victoria. The divorce took 2 years. 2 years of lawyers and court dates, and Oliver asking why Daddy was so angry all the time. I won, obviously. I had better lawyers, more resources, but it cost me everything emotionally. By the end, I could not trust anyone. Everyone I met wanted something from me. Men wanted my money. Women wanted connections to my company. Even my own sister asked me to invest in her husband's failing business. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, not bothering to hide the tears streaming down her cheeks. I started the support group because I genuinely wanted to help people. And yes, because I was lonely. Desperately lonely. Do you have any idea how isolating it is to have everything and feel like you have nothing? To wonder if anyone would give you the time of day if you did not have a 9-figure bank account. Nathan was quiet. Anger slowly draining away, replaced by a complicated mix of emotions he could not quite untangle. "When I met you," Victoria said, her voice breaking, "you were the first person in years who looked at me and saw me. Just me. Not my house, or my company, or my portfolio. Just a tired single mom, trying to do right by her kid. That is all I ever wanted. To be seen for who I am, not what I have. So you hid it, Nathan said, understanding dawning. You drove that Honda, wore regular clothes, talked about your job. Like it was nothing special. You created a whole fake version of your life. Not fake, Victoria protested. Just selective. I did not lie about anything, Nathan. I really do work in tech. I really do hate meetings. I really did come to the group looking for connection. I just left out the part about being wealthy, because I was terrified it would change how you saw me. Well, you were right about that. The words came out flat, heavy with implications he was not ready to fully examine. Victoria's face crumpled. Please do not say that. Please do not tell me I have ruined this. I do not know what you have done, Nathan admitted honestly. I need time to think. I need to process this. Because right now, I am feeling about 100 different things, and I cannot sort any of them out, while I am sitting in a house that costs more than I will ever see in my entire life. He stood abruptly, his body needing to move, needing space. Nathan. Wait, I should go. I will get Emma. We will head home. Please. Victoria's voice was desperate now. Do not leave like this. Let us talk this through. But Nathan was already calling for Emma, already moving toward the stairs, already retreating from a situation that had spun so far beyond his control, he could not see the way back. Emma appeared at the top of the staircase, her face falling when she saw her father's expression. Daddy, what is wrong? Nothing, sweetheart. We just need to go home now. But Oliver and I were building a spaceship. I know, but it is time to leave. Victoria appeared behind him, tears still wet on her cheeks. Nathan, please, do not do this. He turned to look at her, this beautiful, complicated woman, who had somehow become essential to his happiness. You should have told me, he said quietly. You should have trusted me with the truth. I was afraid. I know. But this, he gestured at the opulent surroundings, this is not something small. This is your entire life. And you hid it from me, because you assumed I could not handle it. Or worse, because you assumed I would be like everyone else and want something from you. That is not fair. Maybe not. But it is honest. He took Emma's hand, guided her toward the door. I need some time. Please respect that. Victoria stood in her massive foyer watching them leave, and Nathan could see in his rearview mirror that she was crying in earnest. Now her shoulders shaking with sobs. He had hurt her. He knew that. But she had hurt him too, and he was not sure which wound was deeper. Daddy, Emma said from the back seat, her voice small and confused. Why are you mad at Miss Victoria? Did she do something bad? Nathan looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror, at her innocent face creased with worry, and felt his heart break a little more. It is complicated, sweetheart. Is it because she has a big house? Nathan did not have an answer for that. Not one that would make sense to a 5-year-old. Not one that made sense to him if he was being honest. He drove home through the rain, the windshield wipers keeping time with the pounding of his heart, and wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The days that followed were some of the hardest Nathan had experienced since Jessica left. He threw himself into work at the shop, arriving before dawn, and leaving after dark, keeping his hands busy, so his mind would not have time to wander to Victoria. He skipped the Wednesday support group, could not bear the thought of seeing her there, of having to face the complicated mess of emotions her revelation had stirred up. He ignored her calls, her texts, the voicemails that grew increasingly desperate as the days passed. Nathan, please call me back. I am so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I know you need space, but I cannot stop thinking about you, about us. Please do not let this be the end. Oliver keeps asking when Emma is coming back. I do not know what to tell him. I do not know how to explain any of this. Each message felt like a knife twisting in his gut. But he did not respond. Could not respond. Not until he had sorted through the chaos in his head and figured out what he actually felt. His mother appeared at the shop one afternoon, unannounced, her expression saying she already knew something was wrong. "You have been avoiding my calls," she said, settling onto the worn stool by his workbench. "And Emma tells me you have not seen Victoria in over a week." "What happened?" "Nothing." "Nathan Daniel Cole, do not you dare lie to me." Nathan sighed, setting down the wrench he had been pretending to use. His mother had an uncanny ability to see through his defenses, probably because she had been watching him build them since childhood. "She is rich," he said flatly. "Victoria. She is not just comfortable or well off. She is a millionaire. She lives in a mansion in Oakwood Heights, drives a luxury car, owns a tech company worth more money than I can comprehend." His mother's eyebrows rose. "And this is a problem because she lied to me. She let me believe she was like me, struggling like me, when the whole time she was sitting on a fortune. Did she actually lie? Or did she just not mention it?" Nathan opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. His mother had a point. Victoria had not specifically told him she was poor. She had just worn regular clothes, driven a modest car, talked about her job without emphasizing its success. She had created an impression. Yes, but had she actually said anything untrue? "It does not matter," he said stubbornly. "She still deceived me." "Maybe. Or maybe she was scared." His mother leaned forward, her voice gentle. "Nathan, you have spent 4 years building walls around your heart. It took something special for you to let Victoria in. Do you not think maybe she has walls too? Do you not think maybe she had reasons for being careful about what she shared? Her reasons do not change the fact that I feel like an idiot. I have been sitting there talking about my money problems, my eviction notice barely being able to afford ice cream, while she has got more money than God. And how did she react when you talked about those things?" Nathan paused, thinking back. Victoria had never been dismissive of his struggles, never made him feel small for his financial situation. If anything, she had been supportive, respectful, interested in understanding his world rather than judging it. She listened, he admitted reluctantly. She was kind about it. "So let me understand this." His mother's voice had taken on the tone she used when he was being particularly dense. "You found a woman who is beautiful, kind, great with kids, and genuinely interested in you as a person, and you are pushing her away because she has too much money. It is not about the money. Then what is it about?" The question hung in the air, demanding an answer. Nathan was not sure he had. What was it about really Victoria's wealth, her perceived deception, or something deeper, some fear he had not been willing to examine? "I do not belong in her world." He finally said the words, coming out rough and painful. "Look at me, Mom. I'm a mechanic. I have got grease under my fingernails and holes in my jeans, and a truck that is older than some of my customers. I can barely keep my head above water. What could I possibly offer someone like her? Oh, Nathan." His mother's expression softened with understanding. "This is not about Victoria lying to you. This is about you not believing you are good enough." The observation hit him like a physical blow, so accurate it took his breath away. "Jessica left because I was not enough," he said, voicing the fear that had haunted him for 4 years. "I worked too hard or not hard enough. I was too present or not present enough. I was too much of something or not enough of something else. She looked at our life together and decided it was not worth staying for. Jessica left because she was broken. His mother said firmly, "That had nothing to do with you and everything to do with her own demons. You could have been a perfect husband, and she still would have run because she was not running from you. She was running from herself. How do you know? Because I watched you give everything to that marriage. I watched you work yourself to exhaustion trying to make her happy. And I watched you pick up the pieces when she abandoned you and Emma and turn them into a life. You are not the one who failed Nathan. She did." Tears burned in Nathan's eyes, emotions he had kept locked away for years threatening to overflow. What if Victoria realizes I'm not enough either? What if she wakes up one day and sees I'm just a broke mechanic with nothing to offer? At least with Jessica, we started on equal footing. With Victoria, I would always be the lesser partner. The charity case. Is that what you think? That she would see you as a charity case? Would she not? From what you have told me, Victoria went to great lengths to make sure you saw her as an equal. She wore normal clothes, drove a regular car, talked about her job like it was unremarkable. Does that sound like someone who wants you to feel lesser? Or does it sound like someone who was desperate to connect with you on terms that had nothing to do with money? Nathan stared at his mother, her words rearranging something fundamental in his understanding. "She was trying to meet me where I was," he said slowly. "She was not hiding her wealth to deceive me. She was hiding it to protect what we were building." Now you are getting it. But I accused her of lying. I walked out on her. I have been ignoring her calls for a week. His mother shrugged. "Then I suppose you have some apologizing to do." Meanwhile, Emma had stopped eating properly. She picked at her food. Spent hours staring out the window, asked about Oliver every single day. "When can we see them again?" she asked at dinner one night, pushing peas around her plate. "I miss Oliver. He is my best friend." Nathan's heart clenched. In his hurt and confusion, he had been so focused on his own feelings that he had forgotten his daughter had formed attachments too. Emma did not care about Victoria's bank account. She just wanted her friend back. "I do not know, sweetheart. Did you and Miss Victoria have a fight?" "Sort of." Emma's small face scrunched up with thought. "Was it about her big house? Because that is a silly thing to fight about. Oliver said his mom is sad about the house too. She does not even like living there." "How do you know that Oliver told me?" "He said his mom cries sometimes because the house is too big and too quiet, and it makes her feel lonely." Emma looked at Nathan with those knowing eyes. Maybe instead of being mad at her house, you could help her not be lonely anymore. Nathan stared at his daughter, struck by the simplicity and wisdom of her words. A 5-year-old could see what he had been too proud and too scared to understand. "When did you get so smart?" he asked, his voice thick. "I have always been smart. Daddy, you just do not listen sometimes." That night, after Emma was asleep, Nathan sat in his dark living room and finally let himself think about Victoria. Not her money, not her house, not the gulf between their circumstances. Just Victoria, the woman who laughed at his terrible jokes, who looked at him like he mattered, who never once made him feel small, despite having every reason in the world to feel superior. She had been scared to tell him the truth because she had been hurt before, because people had used her, judged her, made her feel like her money was the only interesting thing about her. She had hidden her wealth not to deceive him, but to give them a chance to know each other without that weight. And how had he responded when the truth came out? By confirming her worst fears, by walking away, by making her feel like her money was all he could see. He had done to her exactly what he was afraid she would do to him. The realization hit him like a truck shame and regret, flooding through him in equal measure. He had to fix this. He had to find Victoria and apologize and make her understand that his reaction had been about his own fears, not about anything she had done wrong. The question was whether she would give him the chance. Nathan drove to the cemetery on Sunday morning, something he did when he needed to think, when the weight of the world became too heavy to carry alone. His father's grave was in the older section beneath an oak tree that had been there longer than anyone could remember, its branches spreading like protective arms over the rows of headstones. He sat on the bench someone had placed nearby, staring at the simple marker that bore his father's name and the dates that bookended a life of hard work and quiet integrity. "Hey, Dad," he said, feeling foolish but needing to say it anyway. "I have made a mess of things, as usual." The wind rustled through the leaves, a sound that Nathan chose to interpret as his father listening. "I met someone. Victoria. She is amazing, Dad. Beautiful, kind, great with kids. She makes me laugh in ways I had forgotten I could. She makes me feel like maybe I'm not completely worthless." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "But she is rich. Really rich. And when I found out, I panicked. All I could think about was how I am nothing compared to her. How I could never give her the life she deserves. How eventually she would realize she had made a mistake and leave just like Jessica did." The words hung in the autumn air, painful in their honesty. "Mom says I am punishing Victoria for something she did not do. She says I am so scared of being abandoned again that I am pushing away anyone who gets close." Nathan laughed bitterly. She is probably right. She usually is. He thought about his father, about the lessons he had taught through action rather than words, about working hard and treating people fairly and never judging someone by what they had or did not have. His father had been the most decent man Nathan had ever known, and he had built his entire shop on the principle that everyone deserved honest service, whether they drove a rusty pickup or a brand new Mercedes. "What would you do, Dad?" Nathan asked. "If you had met Mom and found out she was secretly wealthy, would you have walked away?" The answer came to him immediately, as if his father had whispered it in his ear. Of course not. His father would have loved his mother, regardless of her bank account, would have seen the person behind the circumstances, would have judged her by her character rather than her wealth. Nathan had forgotten that lesson somewhere along the way, had let his fears override the values his father had instilled in him. "I need to make this right," he said. Standing up, "I need to apologize, and I need to stop being such a damn coward." He drove to Victoria's mansion, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. The security guard at the gate recognized him. Let him through with a knowing nod, and Nathan navigated the winding road to her door with hands that would not stop shaking. He had brought something with him, not flowers or candy or any of the traditional romantic gestures. Instead, he carried a small carved wooden butterfly, something he had spent the last 3 nights working on in his shop after Emma was asleep. It was not much, certainly nothing compared to the expensive gifts Victoria could buy herself. But he had made it with his own hands, carved every delicate wing and antenna with the same precision he used on engine parts, and it represented something he could not articulate any other way. Victoria answered the door, looking like she had not slept in days. Her eyes were red, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face bare of makeup. She was wearing an oversized sweater that had seen better days, and Nathan had never seen her look more beautiful. "Nathan," her voice cracked on his name. "What are you doing here? I was an idiot." He said the words tumbling out before he could second-guess them. "I was scared and stupid, and I took my fears out on you, and I am sorry. I am so sorry, Victoria." She stared at him like she could not quite believe he was real. "You have not answered my calls in a week. I know. I was wrong. I needed time to sort through my feelings, but I handled it badly. I should have talked to you instead of shutting you out. I thought you hated me." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I thought I had lost you forever. You did not." Nathan took her hands, held them in his calloused grip. "Victoria, listen to me. I was not upset because you have money. I was upset because I was scared. All I could think about was how I am not good enough for you, how you could do so much better than a broke mechanic who cannot even keep his shop afloat. I convinced myself that eventually you would realize that too, and you would leave, and I would be broken all over again." "Nathan." "That is not. Let me finish. Please." He took a shaky breath. "My wife left me. Just walked out one day, with nothing but a note that said she could not do it anymore. For 4 years, I have been terrified of letting anyone get close because I could not survive another abandonment. But hiding behind that fear, I almost threw away the best thing that has happened to me since Emma was born." Tears were streaming down Victoria's face now, but she was smiling. "I do not care about your money," Nathan continued. "I do not care about this house, or your company, or any of it. I care about you. The woman who makes me laugh, who sees me for who I am, who never once made me feel less than, despite having every reason in the world to feel superior." He released one of her hands, reached into his pocket, and pulled out the wooden butterfly. "I cannot give you diamonds," he said, pressing it into her palm. "I cannot buy you fancy things or take you to expensive restaurants, but I can give you this. I made it myself in my shop, thinking about you. It is not much, but it is real, just like my feelings for you." Victoria looked down at the butterfly, ran her fingers over its delicate carved wings, and broke into fresh sobs. But these were not sad tears. These were the tears of someone overwhelmed by unexpected joy. "Nathan Cole," she said, looking up at him with eyes that shone like emeralds in the morning light, "this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me." "Really, really?" She clutched the butterfly to her chest like it was priceless. "Do you know how many expensive gifts I have received over the years? Jewelry, artwork, things that cost more than most people make in a year? And not one of them made me feel the way this does. Because this came from your hands and your heart. This is you." She threw her arms around him, holding on like she never wanted to let go, and Nathan held her back, feeling something fundamental shift and settle inside him. "I'm sorry I hid things from you," Victoria whispered against his chest. "I was scared too. Scared you would see me differently once you knew about the money. Scared you would become like everyone else. I almost did," Nathan admitted. "But a very wise 5-year-old reminded me that what is inside people matters more than what is outside. And inside Victoria, you are the kindest, most genuine person I have ever met." She pulled back to look at him, her face wet with tears, but radiant with hope. "So, what now?" Nathan smiled, reaching up to wipe a tear from her cheek. "Now we start over. Or rather, we keep going. But this time, no secrets, no walls, no hiding. Just us figuring it out together." "Together," Victoria repeated. "I like the sound of that." From somewhere upstairs, a young voice shouted, "Is that Nathan? Is Emma with him?" Victoria laughed, the sound breaking through the emotional intensity of the moment. "That would be Oliver, who has been asking about you approximately every 5 minutes since you left. Tell him Emma will be over soon," Nathan said. "We have a lot of catching up to do." He kissed Victoria, then standing on her doorstep with the morning sun breaking through the clouds, and felt for the first time in years that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. Have you ever let pride almost destroy something beautiful? Let us know in the comments. The weeks that followed Nathan and Victoria's reconciliation were filled with the complicated, beautiful work of blending two broken families into something whole. It was not always easy. There were misunderstandings and adjustments, and moments when the gulf between their circumstances felt impossibly wide. But there was also laughter and love, and the growing sense that they were building something real. Nathan had made one thing clear from the beginning. He was not going to let Victoria pay for everything. His pride demanded that he contribute, that he pull his weight in whatever way he could, even if his contributions could not match hers in monetary terms. Victoria, for her part, respected this boundary absolutely. She understood that Nathan's sense of self-worth was tied to his ability to provide, and she never once tried to undermine that by throwing money at problems he wanted to solve himself. Instead, she helped in other ways. She looked at his books one evening, and Nathan watched her eyes widen at the disorganization she found there. "Nathan," she said carefully, "when was the last time you actually balanced these accounts I balance them?" He protested. "Sort of. When I have time." Victoria laughed, but there was no judgment in it. "Okay, here is what we are going to do. I am going to teach you some basic financial management, and you are going to implement it. Not because I think you cannot figure it out yourself, but because this is literally what I do for a living, and it seems silly not to share what I know." Over the following weeks, she taught him how to track expenses properly, how to manage cash flow, how to identify where he was losing money and where he could potentially gain more. She did not invest in his business or offer to bail him out of his financial hole. She simply gave him the tools to start climbing out himself. And slowly things began to turn around. With better organization, Nathan was able to see opportunities he had been missing before. He discovered that his parts supplier had been overcharging him for years and negotiated a better deal. He found ways to reduce overhead costs without sacrificing quality. He started a small marketing campaign in the neighborhood, letting people know about the honest, reliable service his father had built a reputation on. The eviction notice became a distant memory as his financial situation stabilized and then cautiously began to improve. It was not a dramatic turnaround. He was not suddenly wealthy, but he was not drowning anymore either. What mattered more to Nathan was that he had done it himself. Victoria had provided guidance, but the work was his. The success belonged to him. Victoria started spending time in his world as well, visiting the shop, getting to know his regular customers, eating at the local diner that had been serving mediocre coffee and excellent pie for 30 years. She wore jeans and t-shirts, got grease on her hands, helping Nathan sort parts, and never once complained about the lack of amenities she was accustomed to. "I love it here," she told him one afternoon, perched on a stool in his shop, while Oliver and Emma played in the small waiting area. "It feels real, honest. Your father built something special." "It is not much," Nathan said, wiping his hands on a rag, "especially compared to what you are used to." "Stop doing that." Victoria's voice was firm, but gentle. "Stop comparing everything to what I have. This shop represents 40 years of your father's life, his values, his commitment to doing right by people. That is worth more than any fancy office building." Nathan looked around at the worn concrete floors, the tools organized on pegboards, the same way his father had always arranged them, the faded photos on the walls showing decades of satisfied customers. He had been so focused on what the shop was not that he had forgotten to appreciate what it was. "You are right," he said, something warming in his chest. "It is special." The children, meanwhile, had bonded into an inseparable unit. Oliver took his role as the older child, seriously protecting Emma from everything from playground bullies to scary parts of movies. Emma, in turn, dragged Oliver into her world of butterflies and mermaids and imaginary adventures, and he went willingly, perhaps grateful for the chance to be playful after years of being the only child of a busy single mother. They started calling each other almost siblings, a term they had invented themselves, and made elaborate plans for when they would become real siblings. "First, you have to marry each other," Oliver explained patiently to the adults one evening. "Then we become a family, and Emma can be my sister." "You have to kiss and stuff too," Emma added, making a face. That is what grown-ups do when they love each other. Nathan and Victoria exchanged amused glances over their children's heads, neither willing to discuss how quickly their relationship was actually progressing. The first real test of their blending came when Victoria invited Nathan to a charity gala hosted by her company. It was an annual event, black tie, attended by the city's wealthiest and most influential people. She wanted him there, she said. Wanted to introduce him to her world, the way she had been introduced to his. Nathan agreed, but as the night approached, his anxiety grew. He rented a tux that did not fit quite right. Practiced small talk in front of his mirror. Tried to memorize facts about Victoria's company, so he would not sound completely ignorant. The evening started badly. Nathan felt out of place from the moment they walked in, surrounded by people whose casual conversations referenced vacation homes and yacht clubs and the kind of wealth he had only ever seen in movies. Some of them looked at him with barely concealed curiosity, clearly wondering what Victoria Hayes was doing with someone so obviously not of their world. A man Nathan vaguely recognized from business magazines approached them, champagne in hand, a smile on his face that did not reach his eyes. "Victoria, wonderful to see you as always. And who is this? This is Nathan Cole." Victoria set her hand, finding Nathan's and squeezing firmly. "My boyfriend." The man's eyebrows rose slightly. "Cole, are you in tech as well?" "Auto repair," Nathan said, forcing himself to meet the man's eyes. "I own a shop on the south side. How fascinating." The man's tone suggested it was anything but. "And how did you two meet at a support group for single parents?" Victoria said, her voice carrying a warning that only Nathan recognized. "Nathan is the most dedicated father I have ever met. His daughter adores him. How sweet." The man was already looking over Nathan's shoulder, scanning for more impressive conversation partners. "Well, lovely to meet you. Victoria, we should talk about that merger proposal sometime." He walked away without waiting for a response. Nathan stood rigid, feeling the heat of embarrassment and inadequacy burning through him. This was exactly what he had feared. Being dismissed, being condescended to, being treated like he was invisible, simply because he lacked the wealth that granted admission to this world. But then Victoria did something unexpected. She turned to face him fully, put both hands on his shoulders, and said loud enough for several nearby guests to hear, "That man is a pompous fool who got rich by exploiting people. You are worth 10 of him, Victoria." Nathan hissed, mortified. "I mean it." Her eyes were fierce, protective. "You work harder than anyone in this room. You are raising an incredible daughter on your own while keeping your father's legacy alive. That takes more courage and integrity than any of these people will ever have." She turned to the small crowd that had been watching their exchange. "This is Nathan Cole. He is the most honest, hardworking man I have ever met, and I am proud to be with him. Does anyone have a problem with that?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then slowly people began to murmur and return to their conversations. The message clearly received. Victoria Hayes's boyfriend might not be wealthy, but she was prepared to defend him against anyone who tried to make him feel unwelcome. "You did not have to do that," Nathan said, as she guided him toward a quieter corner. Yes, I did. Victoria's expression softened. Nathan, I do not care what these people think. Most of them would sell their own mothers for a good investment opportunity. You are real. You are genuine. And you are mine. She kissed him right there in front of everyone, and Nathan felt something shift inside him. Victoria was not ashamed of him. She was proud. And maybe it was time he started being proud of himself too. I love you, he said, when they pulled apart, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. He had not planned to say it, not here, not like this. But it was true, and he was tired of holding back. Victoria's face transformed with joy. I love you too, Nathan. So much. They spent the rest of the evening together, hand in hand, and Nathan found that the whispers and glances bothered him less when he had Victoria by his side. Her world was not his world, might never fully become his world, but she was making space for him in it anyway. And that was enough. 6 months into their relationship, Nathan planned something special. His father had left him one thing besides debt and a struggling shop. A cabin by Crystal Lake, about 2 hours outside the city. It was small, rustic, without Wi-Fi or cell service or any of the modern conveniences that defined most of Victoria's life. Nathan had spent summers there as a child, learning to fish and hike and appreciate the simple pleasure of existing in nature. He had never taken anyone there, not even Jessica, who had dismissed the idea of a primitive cabin as beneath her. But something told him Victoria would see it differently. I want to take you somewhere, he told her one Friday evening. You, Oliver, me Emma, a whole weekend away. Where it is a surprise, but I should warn you it is not fancy. At all. Victoria's smile was warm with trust. I do not need fancy, Nathan. I just need you. They drove up Saturday morning, both children vibrating with excitement in the back seat. Nathan's old truck loaded with supplies and anticipation. The further they got from the city, the more the tension seemed to drain from Victoria's shoulders. She watched the scenery change from suburbs to farmland to forest with an expression of pure wonder. When they finally turned onto the dirt road leading to the cabin, Nathan felt his heart rate spike. This place meant everything to him. Bringing Victoria here was like exposing his most vulnerable self. The cabin came into view, small, weathered, with a sagging porch and smoke-stained stones from decades of campfires. The lake sparkled behind it, blue and pristine, and tall pines surrounded everything like protective sentinels. Nathan, Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. This is beautiful. He let out a breath he had not known he was holding. Really, really. She turned to him with tears in her eyes. This is perfect. The weekend unfolded like a dream Nathan had not dared to imagine. He taught Oliver to fish, the boy's face lighting up with pure joy when he caught his first base. Victoria and Emma collected interesting rocks along the shoreline, the two of them bonding over shared discoveries and inside jokes. They cooked meals together over a campfire, played board games by lamplight, and sat on the small dock watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Victoria told Nathan about her childhood, about camping with her father before he died, and before her company took off and changed everything. Her father had been a mechanic too, she revealed. He had worked in a shop, not unlike Nathan's, spent his evenings tinkering with engines, and his weekends taking his daughter into the wilderness. He would have loved you, Victoria said at her head resting on Nathan's shoulder as they watched the last light fade from the sky. He always said you could tell a lot about a man by how he treated his tools and his children. You treat both with respect. Nathan felt tears prick at his eyes. To be compared favorably to Victoria's father, a man she clearly had idolized, meant more than any compliment about his appearance or his business acumen. What happened to him? Nathan asked gently. Heart attack. Same as yours, actually. He was working on a car, just doing what he loved. And then he was gone. Victoria's voice was thick with old grief. I was 22. Had just started my company, was so focused on building something that I did not spend as much time with him as I should have. He died never knowing how successful I would become. He knew, Nathan said with certainty. He knew you were going to be amazing because he raised you to be amazing. Victoria wiped her eyes and smiled. This place this weekend, it reminds me of him. Of simpler times when success was measured in fish caught and stars counted and time spent with people you love. I was afraid to bring you here, Nathan admitted. Thought it was not good enough. Not up to your standards. Nathan Cole. Victoria shifted to look at him directly. After all this time, do you still think I care about that stuff? This weekend has been one of the happiest of my life. Watching you with Oliver, seeing how patient you are when you teach him things, the way Emma looks at you like you hung the moon. I have never felt more at home in anywhere, even in your mansion, especially compared to my mansion. Victoria laughed. That house was my ex-husband's idea. He wanted to live somewhere that impressed people, and I was too young and too in love to argue. After the divorce, I kept thinking I would sell it, but I never did. Maybe because I was waiting for a reason to. She paused, something significant in her silence. Nathan, I need to tell you something. Something I have been thinking about for a while. His heart stuttered. What is it? I love you. Not because of anything you have or do not have. Just you. The way you care for Emma, how hard you work, your integrity, your kindness, everything that makes you who you are. She took a shaky breath. I have dated wealthy men, powerful men, men who could give me anything money could buy. None of them ever made me feel the way you do. Nathan felt something shift inside him, a barrier he had not even realized he was maintaining, finally crumbling. I love you too, Victoria. I think I have for a long time, but I was afraid to say it, afraid that eventually our differences would matter more than our similarities, afraid you would wake up one day and realize you could do so much better than me, better than you. Victoria shook her head. Nathan, you are the best man I have ever known. Your struggles do not make you less than anyone. They make you more. They have built character and resilience and empathy that most people never develop. She took his hand, intertwined their fingers. The only differences that matter are the ones that help us complement each other. Your practicality balances my occasional extravagance. My financial knowledge helps your business sense. Together, we are better parents, better people, better everything. Under the canopy of stars, with the gentle sound of lake water lapping at the shore, Nathan kissed Victoria. And for the first time in 4 years, he felt truly, completely free. The following morning, as they packed to leave, the children made an announcement. We have been talking, Oliver said, with the seriousness of a child who had rehearsed this moment. And we think we should all live together. Nathan and Victoria exchanged surprised glances. Yeah, Emma added, her small face determined. Oliver can be my brother, and Victoria can be my mom, and Daddy can be Oliver's dad. That is how families work. That is a pretty big decision, Nathan said carefully. You love each other, right? Oliver pressed. We heard you talking last night. Victoria's cheeks flushed pink, but she smiled. Yes, we do love each other. Then it is easy, Emma declared with the certainty only a 6-year-old could muster. Families live together and love each other. That is what we should do. Nathan looked at Victoria, seeing his own emotions reflected in her eyes. love, hope, and the acknowledgement that their children had cut straight to the heart of the matter. The kids might be onto something, he said softly. They usually are, Victoria agreed. Though maybe we should take it a bit slower than they are suggesting. Definitely. Nathan nodded, then dropping his voice so only she could hear. But I like where they are heading with this plan. Victoria's smile was bright enough to outshine the morning sun. Me too, Nathan. Me too. 1 year after their first meeting at the support group, Nathan brought everyone back to the cabin. Same rustic charm, same pristine lake, same stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. But this time, he had something specific planned. The ring had taken him 6 months to save for. He had set aside a portion of every paycheck, skipped lunches, took on extra jobs, all to afford a modest diamond that Victoria could probably have bought herself 100 times over. But that was not the point. The point was that it came from him, from his hard work, and his tibume, and it represented everything he wanted to give her. Emma and Oliver were in on the plan. Nathan had sworn them to secrecy with the gravity of a sacred oath, and they had managed to keep quiet for an entire month, though the effort was visibly straining them both. "Is tonight the night, Daddy?" Emma whispered every evening. "Soon, sweetheart. Very soon." On their final evening at the cabin, after a dinner of grilled fish they had caught together, Nathan led Victoria down to the dock. The sun was just beginning to set, painting the sky in watercolors of orange and pink and gold. "I love it here," Victoria said, leaning against him. "I love that you shared this place with us." "It is special to me," Nathan agreed. "But it has become even more special now that you have been here." He took her hands, and Victoria must have sensed something because her eyes went wide, her breath catching in her throat. "Victoria, I need to say something." "Nathan, a year ago I walked into a community center looking for help. I was drowning, barely surviving, convinced I was the worst father in the world, and that I would never be happy again." He paused, gathering himself. "And then you walked in that red dress, carrying cookies, with a smile that made me forget how to breathe." Victoria laughed, tears already forming in her eyes. "You saw me," Nathan continued. "Not my bank account, or my circumstances, or my failures. Just me. And you made me believe that maybe I was worth seeing." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small velvet box, and Victoria's hands flew to her mouth. "I know I am not rich. I cannot give you fancy things or take you to expensive places. But I can give you my heart, Victoria. I can promise to show up every single day to love you and Oliver with everything I have to build a family with you that is based on honesty and respect, and the kind of love that does not care about circumstances." He dropped to one knee, opening the box to reveal the modest diamond ring that had cost him 6 months of sacrifice. "Victoria Hayes, will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Oliver's stepfather and the partner you deserve?" Victoria was crying openly now, but she was also laughing, her face radiant with joy. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Nathan. 1,000 times. Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he was standing, and she was in his arms, and they were kissing as the sun painted the sky in colors of hope and promise. From the cabin, 2 young voices erupted in cheers. "She said yes!" Oliver shouted. "I knew it!" Emma squealed. "I knew she would say yes." They came running down to the dock, and suddenly all 3 of them were tangled together in an embrace, laughing and crying, and holding on to each other like they would never let go. "We are going to be a real family," Emma declared. "We already are," Nathan said, looking at the three faces he loved more than life itself. "We have been for a while." The wedding was held at the community center, where they had first met, transformed with flowers and lights, and the love of everyone who had witnessed their journey. Friends from the support group attended, along with Nathan's mother and Victoria's colleagues, and the regular customers from Cole's Auto Repair, who had become like family over the years. Oliver stood proudly as ring bearer, taking his responsibility with the utmost seriousness. Emma scattered flower petals with dramatic flair, occasionally tossing entire handfuls into the air just to watch them fall. Victoria wore a simple white dress, elegant, but not extravagant, with her blonde hair cascading in soft waves and the wooden butterfly Nathan had carved pinned above her heart. She walked down the aisle alone, having chosen to give herself away. A woman who had learned to stand on her own and was now choosing to stand beside someone else. Nathan watched her approach with tears streaming down his face, not caring who saw, not caring about anything except the woman in white who was about to become his wife. They had written their own vows, words that came from hearts that had been broken and healed and now beat as one. "I found my home," Nathan said, his voice rough with emotion, the night a beautiful woman in a red dress walked into a support group and saw me. Not my bank account, not my struggles, not my failures. Just me. "Victoria, you taught me that asking for help is not weakness, that love does not care about circumstances, and that the right person will love you not despite your scars, but because of them. I promise to love you, support you, and choose you every single day for the rest of my life." Victoria's response was equally moving. "I found my home," she said, "when a man with calloused hands and a tired smile made me feel like I was enough, just as I am. Nathan, I spent years being valued for what I had, not who I was. You changed that. You showed me that true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in the people who love you and the life you build together. I promise to love you, honor you, and remind you every single day how incredible you are." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the community center erupted in cheers. Nathan kissed Victoria with all the love he had been holding back, and somewhere in the crowd, Emma's voice rang out clearly. "Gross. They are doing the kissing thing." Everyone laughed, and Nathan pulled back to find his daughter making exaggerated gagging faces, while Oliver looked on with tolerant amusement. This was his family now, messy and imperfect, and absolutely wonderful. The reception that followed was everything Nathan had dreamed a celebration could be. Not fancy, not extravagant, but full of love and laughter and the people who mattered most. In the months after the wedding, they made significant changes. Victoria sold the mansion, which she had never wanted anyway, and they bought a new house together, not as grand as her previous home, but considerably more spacious than Nathan's old apartment. It had a room for each child, a workshop where Nathan could build things in his spare time, and a garden where Victoria could practice the hobby she had never had time for before. The most important thing, Nathan insisted, was that he contribute to their new life. He used some of his improved business earnings to help fund renovations on the house and establish college accounts for both children. Victoria, understanding his need to be an equal partner, agreed to let him handle certain expenses, while she handled others. A major opportunity came when Victoria's company offered to acquire Cole's Auto Repair for a generous sum. The deal would provide Nathan with financial security, while allowing him to stay on as owner and manager, preserving his father's legacy while benefiting from Victoria's business expertise. After much discussion, Nathan accepted, recognizing that accepting help was not the same as accepting charity, especially when that help came from his partner. 2 years into their marriage, Victoria gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, who were immediately spoiled by their older siblings. Oliver, now 11, took his role as biggest brother with dedicated seriousness. Emma, now 8, was in heaven, having babies to help care for. The single-parent support group remained an important part of their lives. Nathan and Victoria continued to attend, eventually becoming co-facilitators, sharing their story with new members who walked through the door looking as lost and desperate as Nathan had that first night. "It gets better," Nathan would tell them. "I know it does not feel like it now, but it gets better. And you do not have to do it alone." On quiet evenings, after the children were asleep, Nathan and Victoria often sat together on their porch swing, watching the fireflies dance across their yard. It had become their ritual, this moment of peace at the end of chaotic days, a chance to reconnect and remember how far they had come. "Did you ever imagine this would be your life?" Victoria asked one such night, her head resting against his shoulder. Nathan thought about the desperate man who had sat crying in his truck in that community center parking lot, convinced he was drowning, and there was no one to throw him a line. That man seemed like a stranger now, a shadow from another life. "Not in my wildest dreams," he admitted. "I was just hoping to figure out how to be a better dad to Emma. I never expected to find a partner, more children, this whole beautiful life. I was hiding behind my work," Victoria confessed, "afraid to let anyone close enough to see the real me. So glad you were stubborn enough to stick around after finding out about my situation." Nathan laughed softly. "Well, you make a really good chocolate chip cookie." That was hard to walk away from. She playfully swatted his arm before settling back against him. "Seriously, though, thank you for seeing me. Not my money or my company, just me." "And thank you," Nathan replied, "for seeing value in a grease-stained mechanic with more determination than prospects." "I got the better end of this deal." "Impossible," Victoria insisted. "Our children have the best father imaginable." From inside the house, a baby's cry interrupted their quiet moment. They both stood, hands automatically finding each other's. "I have got this one," Nathan said, kissing her softly before heading inside. As he climbed the stairs to soothe his youngest daughter, Nathan reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought him here. A support group for single parents had given him not only the guidance he had sought, but also a complete family. Proof that sometimes life's greatest gifts arrive in the most unlikely packages, and that love truly could bridge any difference when built on honesty, respect, and shared values. When he returned to the porch, baby soothed and sleeping again, Victoria was waiting with 2 mugs of tea, and that smile that still made his heart skip. Different worlds had collided that first Wednesday evening, a broke mechanic and a secret millionaire, both searching for the same thing: understanding, connection, love, and they had found it in each other. Sometimes the family you need is not born from blood or circumstance. Sometimes it is built from 2 broken people, brave enough to choose each other one Wednesday evening at a time. Nathan Cole had walked into that community center looking for help with single parenthood. What he had found was so much more. A partner who saw him for who he truly was. Children who made every struggle worthwhile. A family that proved wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with love. And that was the greatest gift of all. Friends, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that restore your faith in love. Share this with someone who needs to remember that your worth is not measured by what is in your wallet, but by what is in your heart. And never forget, the right person will love you, not despite your circumstances, but because of who you are. Until next time.